Okay, we're gonna get started. Great. Do you all see my screen? You see the initial title screen? Fantastic. Wonderful. Okay, everyone. Really nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. Yonatan, I hope you open up your video before the end of the session. I would love to see your face. You look great as a static photo, but I'd love to see you as well. And everyone, I'm going to open up with actually a question right away. Before I even get to know who you are, I'm going to ask a question. I want you to write in the chat box, please. What is the biggest issue that you faced in your organization? Whether it's a small organization, whether it's you're by yourself, whether you're part of a big company or big organization, what is the biggest issue you face? If you can write in the chat box, I want to see some of the examples. What do you think you face in your daily life? Lack of focus and everything is urgent. Donna, thank you. Who else? Who else is brave enough?
I'm trying to write in English.
It will
take time.
You can write it in Hebrew also, it's fine. New target audiences. What about stability? Jenny, what do you mean by stability? Priority.
I think that understanding what we're doing to stick to it and make sure we exist long term, let's say. Maybe.
Exist long term. Okay, I understand. And Sidilea Dufiot, Karine, what do you mean by that? Priorities. Give me a little bit more about that.
I'm not talking about the organization. I'm talking of like my own personal business, and I'm thinking that everything seems always equally important, and sometimes I'm just like hold still because of that.
And how do you deal with that with the people in your company? How many people are you?
No, so I'm not talking about my own business, which I'm starting now. So it's me. You're seeing the team, and I think that I'm just struggling with myself to kind of like prioritize my own tasks and the different direction that I could take in building like the business that I'm trying to build.
Okay. So what we're going to talk about today actually might be useful once you start building your business. Jenny, where do you work? What organization?
Door Le Door. It's a non-profit, small non-profit.
How many people?
15.
15. And you said stability is one of the major issues that you have there. Stability and like the goals or working together, things like that?
I think it's connected. It's connected to Corona. It's connected to the general phase we're at as the non-profit sector in Israel, I think.
Okay.
But yeah.
Got it. Okay. So I'm going to make one big claim today with all of the issues that you all face. And we have 50 minutes to solve all the problems, which I'm sure you know I can do, obviously. But I'm going to make one big claim. Almost all the issues you all talked about, they have something in common. And they stem from a core specific issue. And that issue that we're going to talk about today, that I'm going to claim is one of the core issues of corporations, organizations, whether they're growing or small, is something called operational empathy. Do you see the screen?
Yes.
Great, fantastic. Making sure it still works. We had a technical issue before. Operational empathy. So I'm telling you what it is, but before we dive into what operational empathy is, I want to first introduce myself. So my name is Seeman. I'm a senior consultant at Biomar. That focuses mainly on leadership and bringing out authenticity, interpersonal communications, good decision-making. I've been a startup CEO. I've worked in government, both in the USA and in Israel. And actually, one of my favorite things to do, to be honest, right now is actually film production. I'm producing my first documentary. So I'm a bit all over the place. And I hope by the end of this session that when we learn about operational empathy and what the causes of operational empathy are, that you will actually be able to make a change in how you relate to the people around you, and specifically the people in your workplace. I'm hoping there will be a change, a mindset shift when we are done here today, okay? The reason why I joined Biomar is because when I moved from going from startup companies and government into consulting, it's because of one main thing. I love asking questions. I love asking questions and finding out what is the real problem and helping them people solve that. And the main question I was asking for many, many years, every time I dug deeper and deeper into people's problems, I understood one core thing came out. There was one problem that was like at the source of everything, and it's quite philosophical. And it's this. Our operating system, i.e. our brain, is not compatible with the 21st century. Okay, I'm going to say it again. Our brain, Karine, you're on mute. Okay, not for me. Our brain is not compatible for the world that we live in today. And obviously, I'm going to do my best to prove that and show why there's such an issue, with that. So let me explain. Let me give you like a bit of imagery here. Imagine we're computers, right? Imagine there are computers in the world, right? You have hardware and you have software. And when you want to run an upgrade, when you want to adapt to the new world, all you do is hit a button. 5 minutes later, there's an upgrade, and boom, the hardware and the software, they all work together. The problem is that me and all the people on this call, we're not computers. And so we can't push a magic button. And so Homo sapiens have been evolving for 500,000 years. And for 99, this is a fact, for 99.98% of that existence, the conditions around us, the world around us has basically been the exact same. Okay? But today, just in the past 200 years, which is only 0.02% of human existence, the rate of innovation, the rate of change around us has been exponentially growing. I mean, you all know this already, right? You all live this every single day. It's been exponentially growing. All the technology. We used to live in small communities. Now we live in a global world of strangers, basically. So while the conditions around us have been changing, our brains have been very, 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 very slow to adapt to those changes. And that's why I have so many problems. So in essence, what I want to say here on this slide is that we're actually still cave people. Our brains are still geared and still reacting as if we were living in Africa on the savannah when we were cave people. Okay? And what happens there is that all of our responses to people nowadays in the workplace, to our partners, to our friends, they still have the same type of cave person responses. We're just unconscious of them. The problem is, if we want to actually be successful in the world today, we need to become aware of what those responses are and then change them. So it's very, very important. So, okay. So where did this come from? What happened with the cave people? What are our brains develop when we were cave people? I want to tell you like where this actually comes from. So this is called System 1 thinking. Our cave person brain developed 500,000 years ago. And today modern science, it's called System 1 thinking, okay? It's the part of the brain that's responsible for emotions. It's very automatic. It's rapid. It is based off of the gut intuition. It's very emotional. And it's part of the brain that's called the basal ganglia, the amygdala, and the hypothalamus, all right? These are the parts of the brain that were developed half a million years ago. Those are the things that prioritize things like speed. They prioritize things like very, very short-term results. They're very, very emotional, and they're not analytical, okay? Think back to a few minutes. I want to ask a question. Think back to a few minutes when you first saw me, when you first heard my voice. What did you initially think? What were some of the knee-jerk reactions? What was your initial bias or impression of me? I promise you I can't be insulted. No matter what it was, it could be, oh, this guy's too young. Oh, I don't know what he's talking. I don't know if he knows what he's talking about. Oh, maybe I'm hungry. Maybe I should have eaten before this session. When you first saw me and heard me speaking, I want to hear from you. What was your initial reaction to me? You know nothing about me, but what was your initial reaction? Let me hear from you guys. You can write in the chat or you can speak. Actually, I prefer you speak, actually. That'd be great.
I thought you're nice.
You thought I'm nice?
Because you asked about Betprat immediately, and it was nice.
So I tricked you well. That's great. What else? What else did you guys think about me the moment I started talking or the moment you saw me?
Oh, I have a stereotypic answer that you speak English and therefore you're smart.
Wow, I'll take that one actually. Okay.
All of your stereotypes are great, Jenny. I think all of them. You're nice, you're smart, awesome, really.
I know it's uncomfortable to say anything else. It's like.
So say what else? What else do you want to say?
No, I'm actually kidding. I'm still struggling to think. It's 8 o'clock in the morning here.
Oh, where am I talking?
I'm in New York.
You're in New York. That's basically where I grew up. Okay, fine. So
our alumni are all over. I would say as a stereotype that I was wondering did you make Aliyah to Israel? But that's because I work for the Jewish agency as well. So that's what came up to my head, but I might be wrong. And you might be born here or something like that.
Okay,
so I'm
so
not sure.
The bottom line is it doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. I might be nice. I might be a total jerk. The point is that most of you, all of you, made responses immediately. You waited only seconds, okay? But you had no idea who I was. That is the system one thinking, okay? That is the cave person part of our brain responding instantly. Because back then, when a lion roared on the savannah, you had to respond instantly. You couldn't say, let me give it 10 minutes. Let me see if this lion is dangerous or not. And every lion should be equal, right? Let's see, maybe this lion doesn't want to eat me, okay? We couldn't do that back then, right? And so we had to make very, very, very quick responses. So that is the type of thinking that we still have today. Now, the thing is that there's also a system 2 level thing, which we'll get to a little bit later on, which is how we get out of all of this, how we change and adapt to the new world. That's going to come only a bit later. So now I want to bring it to modern day society. When you have initial responses like that in the workplace, think about all these things here on the screen. Have any of these things ever happened to you in the workplace, right? You ask yourself, why is communication maybe so poor in the workplace? Why are people depressed and have anxiety? Why are there constant frictions? Why can't things just work smoothly? Why can't we all just get along? Every day on a daily basis, we have interactions with people in our workplace, but also in our personal lives, where all these things are happening, okay? And what we believe, as I said before, is that one of the major causes for this is operational empathy. Now I'm going to come back to operational empathy and explain what it is, now that I've hopefully piqued your interest. So here is the definition of what we believe operational empathy is. Operational empathy is the ability for us to understand and relate to the challenges and the frustrations of our stakeholders and critical interfaces around us. Bottom line is, how do you relate to the challenges and frustrations of the people around you? How do you respond? Do you trust them? Do you respond very quickly? Do you respond to anger or frustration? Do you have a lot of biases when you go into them? That is what operational empathy is. I don't think any of you would disagree with me or argue with me that empathy is a really important part of relationships between anybody, right? Operational empathy is what happens in the workplace. Okay, so that's operational empathy. And that's the thing that we believe here at Biomar has basically been deteriorated over the past 500,000 years. And our goal at Biomar is to hopefully make you aware of it and then be able for you to go out in the workplace or with your personal relationships and hopefully change that. Up until now, I want to ask if anyone has any questions. Is operational empathy clear to people? Do people understand what we mean by operational empathy? It's a pretty simple point, but it's something that I'll show you in a few minutes, basically has died. And it's super crucial. We're not even conscious of it, which is why we have this lecture called Out of Sight, Out of Sound. Okay. So the question is, how did we get here? How did this actually happen? Like, how did we lose empathy between people? I want to explain to you how we got here in just a few minutes. And then hopefully we'll move into maybe some tips and tools on how to actually get over it. So I want to introduce you 3 major revolutions that happened within Homo sapiens that helped operational empathy die. At the same time, these revolutions also helped move society and humans forward, but it also killed our connection to us, to individuals, to each other. The first one happened 250,000 years ago. It is the social evolution of society, okay? The second one, I'll get into each one of them. The second one was the organizational evolution, the organizational revolution, what happened about 200 years ago. when corporations and organizations really took off and they became global and they really changed how we actually work nowadays. And the last one is the communications evolution. Now, we were all born into this last one, and this is the one that we all know about, the digital communications evolution. So I want to get into the first one, how we evolved. What is the social evolution that we have here today? So for any of you that haven't read Yuval Noah Harari's book, Sapiens, I highly suggest you read it, because he was able to summarize in one sentence how we socially evolved over the past 250,000 years. And the bottom line is that we have shifted from small, tight-knit communities into one vast global community of strangers. Okay? Let me ask you a question. How many of you know me? Anybody here know me? How many of you have heard of me? Okay, you've kind of heard of me, right? Aviel! My goodness, I did. Okay, we'll get back to that in a second. We don't have too much time here. Aviel, good to see you. But I was going to say in what I usually say is that no one here knows me. So the question is, why are you listening to me? I'm a stranger to you, right? This is not normal for the human brain. It's not normal. It's not natural that you're sitting here listening to a guy who you have no idea who it is. You don't know what my experience is, but yet you're sitting in different parts around the world, from New York to Israel, and you're listening to me talk. This is very, very strange for our brains in an evolutionary capacity. That's why all your brains made an initial reaction right away, trying to figure out, who is this guy? He's a stranger right now. Am I safe? Is he going to harm me like the lion? All right. Should I listen to him? Do I have anything to learn from this guy? Right? Instantly, your brain is making that assumption. So when we moved from living with 50 to 150 people, almost our entire lives, to nowadays living with millions that are strangers, your brain has not caught up. So again, we used to know only 50 to 150 people our entire lives. And what happened with them? We shared physical proximity with them. We shared social cultures with them. We shared memories. We grew up together. We hunted together. We loved each other. We knew each other's families. That's the way it's been for hundreds of thousands of years. Okay, as you can see, for 98.9%, 98% of society, of humanity. Nowadays, where are we? How many people do we interact with on a daily basis nowadays? Okay, nowadays I'm going to claim that we actually interact with thousands of people every single day. And what do I mean by interact? By interact, I don't mean like sit down and have coffee and get to know, because our brains are not built that way. They're still trying to figure out, every human being that I see every single day is a potential threat to me, just like it was a couple 100,000 years ago, right? So now we interact with thousands of people a day. And do we share the same language? Maybe. Do we have same memories? No. Do we have physical proximity? Am I anywhere near you? No, we're not. Do you know anything? Do I know anything about you? Do you know anything about each other even? Probably not, right? So nowadays we're interacting with, or most likely you don't. Have you ever really hung out together outside of even the classroom? Let me ask that question. Have any of you guys actually hung out of the classroom? You have. Okay, that's a good start.
Four of us here from the same class, so we had a lot of social activities after school.
And do you still?
And Jenny and I studied together on our bachelor degree, so that's an easy question. But yeah.
Okay, what beer does Jenny like?
That's a great question, because many years has passed. But
what's Jenny's parents' name? One of them.
Todek. I don't know.
Right? Now, don't get me wrong. Again, I'm not putting you on the spot, but it's something that's really important. Where back then, even just 200 years ago, we used to know all this information, and it built a lot of trust and connection and love and bonding, and you could depend on each other, right? And now that all that's gone, and when you don't have trust, empathy, your ability to want to empathize with somebody decreases dramatically. And now we're doing it with thousands of people on a daily basis. We don't have any tight-knit bonds with them whatsoever. So what happens when we meet a stranger? What are these initial reactions? Now, you've all heard of what the actual automatic reactions are. So I'm going to give you a hint. They're called the 3 Fs. and how our minds and how our bodies respond to a stranger, which technically is most of the people on this phone call are people you engage with every day. What are the 3 F's of how a mind reacts, how a system 1 mind reacts to people on a daily basis? Have you guys heard of the 3 F's? I'm gonna give you the first
Maybe
one.
suspicious.
3 F's starts with that. First one is fight. Have you heard of that before?
Flight
Oh,
and something else? No?
very good. Flight
Yeah,
is the next
okay.
one. And then freeze.
Right.
This is how our brains developed for hundreds of thousands of years. And if you think it's gone, it's not. You may not be conscious of it, but it is still there. When you meet a stranger, which again, I just made the case that basically everyone in your life on a daily basis is a stranger to you. Okay. This is what your brain is trying to figure out information wise. Okay. Should I fight? Should I run away, or am I just petrified? Do I just freeze and just hopefully nothing happens to me? Right? That's where our brain's still at. I know you're all probably saying, no, I have social skills. I know how to make judgments. I have good intuition. That's nice for you. I can tell you that maybe we've all gotten a little bit better, but I can tell you that once we're more aware of operational empathy, once people are not so much strangers anymore in our lives, when we change that system, we're going to have even better results across the board, especially in the workplace. And nowadays, there is a 4th F. Who can name the 4th F? What do we do when we meet somebody nowadays? What's the first thing we usually do? When we go back home, what do we do? In order to gather information, are they safe?
Facebook.
I want to be with them. What do you say?
Facebook.
Yeah. There it is. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. Choose Google, choose your method. How many of you are skeptical whenever you go online and you can't find information about somebody? Be honest about it. Aviel, what about you? Do you ever Facebook somebody or stalk somebody afterwards?
My connection is bad. I can't hear you so well.
Oh, okay, got it.
What was the question?
That's a good excuse. I'm very impressed. That was very smart. I was asking, when you meet somebody, how often do you go? Are you ever skeptical of somebody when you go back and you look for them online and you can't find anything? LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, or there's basically nothing. Are you ever a bit skeptical?
Very skeptic.
Are you, or is that a joke?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, there you go. That's our system 1 thinking. There's no logical real reason why you should be skeptical, but you are, right? You're like, wait a minute, and your brain is trying to figure out, am I going to be harmed? Am I safe? Do I want this person as part of my tribe? That is why we do these things. That's why we have fight, fright, flight, and freeze, and now also Facebook as well. So that's the first evolution, the social evolution. Okay, that's one of the big ones that's happened the past 150,000 years. The second one I want to talk about today is the organizational evolution, which I think a lot of you are going to connect to. I'm going to talk about it quickly because there's actually a huge topic, and we were about 10, 12 minutes late starting, so I'm going to run through it very, very quickly. But I think it's important for basically everyone to understand this evolution as well. So organizations evolved about 150 to 200 years ago. The same as the social evolution, right? We used to start businesses, and you kind of knew everyone in your company, right? You hired people locally, all right? And so back then, you had maybe one boss, maybe two. You all lived in the same location. You had similar backgrounds, and that equaled very, very good and high-end collaboration. You're able to work together, you trust each other, there's empathy. There we go back to that word again, right? Somebody needs help, you're there for them because they're also your neighbor as well. Or maybe they live in the town next door, but you basically have all the same cultural understandings. Now, what's happened recently? The big change is that the world has gotten much smaller, but companies, organizations have gotten 100, 1,000, 10,000 times bigger. And what do they try to do? Why are organizations having so many problems? Why do people lack so much empathy and trust between individuals in the company nowadays? Because what the organization tried to do over 150 years, they tried to take the model of everybody knows everybody and replicate it. So it was one company, and then the finance department, and then the HR department, and then whatever department it was, they tried to replicate these small communities, the same hierarchy, the same pyramid over and over and over again. What's the problem with that? Anyone have an idea how that might be a problem? What's one idea? When you try to replicate a small community, tightly knit community, and now you want to do it across the entire world with 100,000 people. What's the issue with that? Anyone have any thoughts? About?
I don't know. I mean, it's very general, but maybe it doesn't suit every industry or society or culture.
But I want to know about people, right? When we built companies and organizations way back, right? We all knew each other when there was a problem. We were all in it together, like a startup community, right? Now we try to grow it to 100,000 people across the entire world. People don't know each other.
It's more
communicate, right? Remember, they're strangers to each other, basically, even in the same organization.
So they don't have trust. I mean, they don't trust each other.
Does that ever happen in any of your organizations? Do you ever have
or they don't feel a part of one thing.
You don't feel a part of one thing.
They're losing a sense of, we are a very small organization, and we actually feel like very responsible for each other and connected. We can look at each other in a like with ein tova, we say, like a good
So think about it. Now when somebody comes to you with a problem from a different department somewhere, right? Never met them before. They come from the legal department. Okay, they come from wherever it may be. Now they ask you for something, right? In your mind, they're still a stranger, as we spoke about. Are you going to really go to bat for them? That's an American term. Are you really going to try to help them? Are you really going to go out of your way? Do you trust them, really? So probably not. Not really. You have some maybe basic trust and you kind of want to help, but you're not going all the way. That's for sure. And if they have a real problem, you don't know how much you really want to be there for them, right? So think about all the problems that happen to organizations today, in governments, in large entities, right? There's no wonder why there's so much friction, so much frustration. There's no smoothness when we work together anymore. The communication doesn't go up and down, left and right. So as organizations got much, much bigger, people became strangers, and we basically don't cooperate as much anymore, which means the goals of the organization are also having a problem too, because if people don't trust, they don't communicate properly, we're going to have an issue. So that is the organizational kind of revolution. While we got much bigger, we employ many more people, and it's moved society forward, and much more technology and sharing of information on an individual level, on a daily basis, employees are much less happy. There's much less smoothness. Communication has almost died. And of course, operational empathy, your ability to really trust and want to love the other person and help them, that's almost gone. That's also why at Biomar, we always recommend offsites, right? Meeting up together as people. So you can get to know each other, understand each other, have people present what their goals are in the organization. So finally you can say, I know that person. And when Brian or when Inbal or when Aviel comes to me with a problem, I want to be there for them. Okay? That's why we always at Biomar, we always push our organizations to get together, do team building exercises that really, really bring trust and love and caring about each other. Otherwise, you're going to continue to have problems across for a while, to be honest. So that's the organizational issue, and I'm gonna jump to the last revolution because we're a bit short on time. The last revolution, as I spoke about, is one that you were all born into, one that we all know about, and that's the communications revolution, right? The digital revolution. Specifically when it comes to interpersonal communication. Okay, that's something that we all know about. Let me ask you a question actually. When do you think the first revolution, when was the first real major move in communication when it comes to human beings? When was the first real change when it comes to communication between human beings? When did that come about? You were to guess.
The print.
Print. That's a really good one. Go back further. I thought you were gonna say like, YouTube or something, but no, go. But
The internet. Like,
no, but go back further. Go back in history even further. You said the printing press. That's
Language.
a good answer.
The drawing in the caves. No?
Language. Language.
Okay. Okay.
Language was the first real revolution with communication. Okay. But now, we spoke a bit, and and even when the wheel was invented, right? When the wheel was invented, what happened? We could carry ideas to different places. That's also communication, believe it or not. The invention of the wheel. And those evolutions, they came about once every couple thousand of years, right? Shani, you said the printing press, right? That came about how many years after language? Hundreds of thousands of years. Okay, now think to today. What's the evolution of communication today? We have a new app every 3 weeks. I swear to God.
Very many. Yeah.
Yeah. YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, like Slack, all the different modes of communication have happened, they're happening all the time. And it's incredible. And we've moved forward, but it comes at a cost. And it comes at a cost that we call at Biomar the communications gap. And it's very important. This is maybe what we think is the most important reason why operational empathy, while collaboration and smoothness in companies is not working anymore. The communications gap. As communication tools, first it was language, then the printing press, and now all the things we know about. As that grew exponentially, the quality of communication basically died, right? We can't focus. We have short attention spans. We get uninterested very, very quickly. We don't know what Guy's actually saying. I don't care what Guy's saying anymore. I'm thinking about my next meeting. I have my WhatsApp coming in. I have SMS. I have a Zoom. I have an email. Now, again, it's incredible, our efficiency, but it also killed operational empathy, okay? And why? Why do these digital tools kill operational empathy? So it's for one major reason, and it's actually an emotion. We're now missing our emotional signals. When the communication revolution came around, we start communicating by email, SMS, Zoom, video, Instagram, Facebook, etc. But our brain is still the cave person, remember? So what were some of the main ways that you can understand who I am, and if you like me, want to be part of my tribe? Let me ask you a question. Can you see if I'm blushing or not? Can you see if my eyes, my pupils are getting bigger or not? Can you feel whether my muscles are tensing up around you or not? Do I feel at ease with you? You can't. Not anymore. It's all through video. This is how the cave person System 1 brain thinks. It was very, very highly adaptive to the micro expressions, we call them in English. The micro expressions, all the small little things that are unconscious that a human being does when they meet somebody, when they meet a stranger also. That's how they really understand whether they want to be closer to them or not, whether they want to trust them or not, whether they want to have empathy for them or not, or like, you know what, this is not for me. All right. How many of you have gone to a first date and within 5 seconds, 10 minutes, 1 minute, you're like, you know what? Something's just not right about this. Just like with me when I first came on. How do you know? How do you really know? You don't really know. Okay. But nowadays, that is when you're on a first date, your brain is already making the decision for you because you see all the small little things. You hear the pitch of the voice in real time. You see their reactions to you. And that is how we really used to be able to connect with people and turn people from strangers into people that we actually want to be around. And nowadays, with email and Zoom and everything else, we can't. So I'm going to prove it to you now, actually, a scientific experiment that was done at Stanford. In the 1970s, this experiment was done. The students came in, let's pretend you're the students, and I'm going to ask you a question. Between A and B, what's the difference? What is the difference between picture A and picture B? It could be anything. The light, it could be the hair, whatever it may be. Do you see a difference?
A is definitely lighter with the light.
You think A is lighter? Okay. Anyone else think they see a difference?
I feel like she's smiling in B, even though she's not, but I feel like she's smiling.
Okay.
I think that maybe B is, it's a painting or something. I don't know. It's a bit, I don't know, the texture or something is different.
So I'm going to
Maybe
stop
it's the
now.
light. I don't know.
For me, it looks exactly the same beside the A and B on top, but that's what I think.
That's good, by the way. Besides the and B on top, that's good. We never got that response before. That's good. So besides Donna, which is kind of half right, you're all wrong, okay? And I'll tell you why. The students in the 1970s at Stanford, when this experiment was done, the students came in and they were asked the same question I just asked you. What's the difference between A and B? And basically 100% of them said there's no difference. 100% that there's no difference between A and B. But then they were asked a second question. They were said, listen, thank you for participating in the experiment. We're really glad you participated, really appreciate it. So as a gift to you, will you just choose a photo, take one with you? And it wasn't the woman you see in the photo here. This is more of an example. It was a photo of actually a famous person. They said, take a photo. And they're like, what do you mean take a photo? They're the same. They're like, yeah, we know, we get it. They're the same, but just choose one. Now, you would think that if they were really identical, that there'd be at least a 50-50 split. Statistically, mathematically, that's the way it should go. 60-40, 55-35. But that is not the way it went. When they did this experiment, and this experiment many times in the past decade, it's always the same result. 80% chose picture B. And I'm going to help you understand exactly why. I'm going to give you a bit of a hint on why it happened. Let me ask you if you can see the difference now. What's the difference now? I just moved to the next.
Ishonim.
The pupils.
Mm.
Yeah,
the pupils are much bigger. Now I enlarged them for you, but in the last photo, the pupils in B are also bigger, but just by a few millimeters, micrometers. You wouldn't be able to tell, definitely not through the screen, right? And 80% chose that photo. They had no idea why they were doing it, but it just happened because their brain was able to see that the pupils were a little bit bigger. Now, does anyone know what happened?
It's funny. I thought that she's like, I said that I thought she's smiling, but like, it's like talking with your eyes.
Bingo. Now, does anyone know what happens to the human body when your pupils get bigger? What's happening there? Why would they get bigger? What's that a reaction to? Does anyone know what's that? It's a common human interaction. Your pupils get bigger when you meet a certain type of person. Can anyone guess why pupils would get a little bit bigger? You meet somebody?
I thought of bad effects, but not on like.
So it's the most basic of human instinct. It's when you're attracted to somebody. When you're attracted to somebody, your pupils get a little bit bigger. Now, you and I can't recognize it normally, but your brain can, all right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden now, the person that's speaking sees the brain sees the person's pupils are bigger, and they all of a sudden start to say, I kind of find them attractive, or I think they're attracted to me. And all of a sudden, the conversation starts. Now, again, this experiment has been done countless times and with the same results every time. But your pupils get bigger. You start to blush a little bit, right? This is like peacocking, right? You want to attract the other person. But now you know that they're attracted to you as well. So this is what we lose with the digital communication era. You can't see any of those things on me. My muscles are tense, my pupils are bigger, whatever it may be. We lose that while on this Zoom call, unfortunately. And it's critically important because it's one more factor in how we turn people from strangers into familiar or someone that we want to be around. And especially in this case, someone we might even date, marry, and have children with. So it's quite a big deal. So that is the communication digital revolution. And so it's no wonder why these things came about. What are these? These are emojis, right? People think they came about at random. At Biomar, we don't believe they came about randomly. They came about because people have a desire to connect to something. They want to understand how the other person actually feels. There were multiple studies done. Unfortunately, I don't have the statistics here with me today. Multiple studies done. All of them showing that if you use emojis or little hearts or whatever it may be, the ability for the other person to trust you, to want to engage with you, goes up dramatically, right? Let me ask you a question. How many of you feel nowadays pressured to use emojis all the time? No matter what. How many of you guys feel pressured to do it?
I don't know if pressure, but it's. I mean, I want to use them most of the time because you feel like you can express yourself more accurately.
What happened? Great. What happens when you receive? What happens when you don't receive emojis from? Let's say you talk to somebody on a regular basis, and they never use emojis. Think about somebody for a second, right? How do you feel about them?
Well, if I don't, no, we can.
If somebody messages you often, right, and they never use emojis, they never use the purple heart or the red heart or the exciting or the laughing, the laughing one or whatever. They never use it. It's always just regular text. How do you feel nowadays?
What happened? Are you mad at me?
Yeah, I'm worried.
Exactly. For what? All they did was write something in a text without an emoji, and all of a sudden.
Or it's passive aggressive also.
Oh my God!
I don't know how to tell.
That's it.
Yeah.
He doesn't like me. He's mad. Think that's how our brains are responding. So again, it's no wonder we have so many problems at work. Because our brain is looking for information on how to treat this person. Do I want this person as part of my tribe? Do they like me? Can I feel safe around them? Do they love me? Right? And when somebody doesn't send you emojis nowadays, let's say all of a sudden they need help from you one day. Are you motivated? Are you excited to work with them? Are you able to do you really want to? Versus somebody that you've been connecting with through emails or whatever it may be, and like they're always using all these different emojis, even if they're faking it, right? This is what our brains are looking for. They're responding. So it's amazing. And this again is the cave person brain. This is how we've been trained over 100,000 years to really think, and these types of methods. So if you remember, and we only have about 10 minutes, so I'm gonna stop here. Those are the three major revolutions that basically caused operational empathy to die. Okay, when the organization got too big, we stopped communicating. When the communication revolution came around, nowadays we can't tell the micro emotions between people, and so we have less connection to people. We believe everyone's a stranger because we're interacting with people on thousands of people on a daily basis, but our brains is still trying to register, are they going to harm me? They're not thinking about, let me sit down with a person, let's have a coffee, let's get to know each other, and now I can build trust and empathy, right? So for all of these reasons, operational empathy has really deteriorated. Now, remember that was system one thinking. With the last few minutes, I'm going to just tell you about how to get out of this. And then I want to ask if you have any questions, because we have only until 4 o'clock, right? Right, Donna? Okay, we'll run out of time. So, you know what, actually, I'm going to skip. So, okay, no, I'll go into it, actually. So very quickly, system one was the emotional part of the brain. System two, which is how you get yourself out of this, how you create good relationships with people in today's modern age. You need to use a different part of your brain, and that is the frontal cortex, okay? That is the part of the brain that is slow. It's calculated. It analyzes, okay? It's the scientific method. You sit down with somebody and you have a coffee with them. You're not judging like this all the time. You're taking it slow and you're allowing the processing of information over time. Because nowadays we can do that. We don't live in such a dangerous world anymore, right? We don't have to make quick judgments about my shirt, about what I'm saying, all those types of things. So system two thinking, the frontal cortex, is how you are going to hopefully shift away from, in your daily lives, away from emotional, kind of irrational, non-analytical thinking, quick judgments, to slow, calculated relationships. So I hope I was able to convince you today that our operating system, our brains, are simply not compatible with today's reality. Our brains haven't caught up with basically where we're at today. And we have all types of relationship issues in the workplace, in our personal lives, because of how quickly innovation has grown and society around us has grown, but how slow our brains have come to adapt to it. And the major thing that this causes is the death of empathy, the inability to convert people from being strangers into being friends, into being part of your tribe, into being familiar and similar to me. Because then I want to help them. I want to learn with them. I want to use my frontal cortex to sit down with them and say, okay, You had a problem. As opposed to me jumping at you and getting angry or making making a quick judgment, why don't we sit down? Maybe they had a family problem. Oh, now I understand. Now let's talk about the issues you're having. Maybe you're having emotional issues. Maybe your job is not what you thought it was and you just never talked about it. And you see slow deterioration in your workplace. But basically your boss is saying he's not getting the job done, we should fire him. That's system one thinking, okay? That's our old operating system. And so I want to help us, I hope we help ourselves upgrade, hit the upgrade button. Start slow. Turn people from strangers into familiar. Understand that your reactions right away are not necessarily in your best interest on a daily basis. So with the last 5 minutes, I'm just going to challenge you and ask for any questions. I am going to ask you one thing. I challenge you now, over the next 2 weeks, find 3 people, all right? Find 3 people, and once you notice, specifically in the workplace, once you notice that you're maybe making quick reactions, quick judgments, whatever it may be, that may not bring about the results, you know, or may not, they may not be, if you respond, maybe it's not the most beautiful of responses. Maybe you're not the most courteous or polite or whatever it may be. The moment you have that response, stop yourself for a second. Maybe sit down with the person, take it slow. Think about how you can turn them from being a stranger to someone familiar and similar. Now, if you still have a problem with them afterwards, I say, okay, go for it. You've done your analysis. You've trained your brain to go from stranger to someone that actually you want, maybe you want part of your tribe, and you still have this opinion about them. Okay, once you've done that, then I say go for it. Go off your intuition. But I challenge you this week or next week to think about it for a second, how we can kind of rebuild operational empathy into specifically our work lives and also into our daily lives. And that's only about slowing down and turning people from strangers into familiar. So that's what I wanted to introduce today. For the last 3 minutes, if anyone has any questions, I'm also happy to take it offline afterwards as well. But that's what I wanted to make you aware of today. Hopefully we'll be able to work more smoother, both with your partners or with friends, but specifically in your workplace. Does anyone have any questions?
I do. Like if you have to give like one important tip for us that we can like do right away, not just like beside being open and to listen and like something that I can do immediately, like with people from my work that will immediately like do a change.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to answer you right away. There were 4 tips we were going to give, but because we started late, we're out of time. All right. Here are the 4 tips in 3 minutes. All right. First of all, by the way, and they're very basic, but we don't do them. Okay. So first of all, let them see you around. Before you meet with someone at a workplace, go on LinkedIn, check them out. Let them see that they saw you. Like something or comment on something. I know it sounds basic, but we don't do it with most people in the workplace. So let them see you around. That trains your brain to go from stranger to familiar because now they've seen your face because you checked them out and you've seen their face. All of a sudden now, a bit more trust, a bit more compassion and empathy. Second one, make it personal. Okay? Attach a person to your digital persona. Up until now, you've been working on email, upgrade it to video. Why? Because maybe in video, you can see their background. Maybe they're hanging a sword up. My colleague right now in Biomar, he hangs a sword in the background of his Zoom. And people always ask him, what is this sword, Yolan? Why is that there? And they get into a conversation. So if they were to do only on email or through WhatsApp or whatever it may be, or Slack, you'd never see that. So make it personal. All of a sudden now, you're human to human. You care about each other. Third thing, show them you're listening. Ask questions that you actually care about. Don't be polite like Americans or Europeans. Show them you're listening. Maybe repeat what they have to say. You can say, hey guy, so you spoke about the organizational evolution. I want to ask a question about that. Now, I'm like, wow, she was listening. He was listening. How great is that? Ask them questions that show that you're actually listening as well. Something that you really care about. Show your authenticity in the question itself. People love authenticity. They're magnetized to authenticity. So show them you're listening by asking a question that you actually care about and show them you care about it. Don't ask it for them, okay? And the fourth thing, learn who they are. beyond what they do. Okay? In the conversation, like for example, I got to know Shani a little bit, and also Imbal a little bit, right? I know Imbal's engaged. I know where Shani works, right? The next time we see each other, next time we talk to each other, there's a bit more trust, a bit more empathy, a bit more love between people. And now maybe we'll want to work together a bit more. So learn who they are beyond what they do. These are all 4 basic tips. And I'll say it again, they're basic, right? It's back to basics, but we don't do them with most people. So with those 3 people I talked to you about, these are the 4 tips, and I'll send these to you if you want by email. These are the 4 tips that we should absolutely start doing. And I'm telling you, you will see a dramatic change in your relationships with people, and they will treat you differently, and you will work smoother and engage better. These are just the beginning tips. Obviously at Biomar, we have 6-month programs, year-long programs where we dive deep into way more sophisticated things. These are the 4 quick tips that you all know about and that we don't do. So I really urge you to start with these. Start with 3 people, give it a shot, and let me know how it goes.
Thank you so much, guys.